Part 3 features stories to illustrate how to apply the 5 steps for critical thinking. For the first story, I'm starting with something I think is pretty easy to analyze. It's easy because there's a lot of information available and it follows a pretty common structure where it's easier to identify the red flags or reasons why you should probably start asking a lot of questions. First, identify the claim being made. Take out all the exclamation points and the declaration that things have gone too far and there isn't much left. It's an outrageous claim, so this is the exact moment you should stop and take a deep breath. Any story or claim that evokes an immediate, visceral, emotional response demands that you examine it more closely, because many times the story's entire point is to get that response. The aim is to get your attention and make you react. So step back, breathe, and strip that story down to its most basic parts. In this example, the claim is pretty straightforward. A school is trying to accommodate a child who identifies as a cat. Who is reporting this story? Where is it coming from? This story pops up most frequently as a comment on social media sites. It has appeared as posts on school board sites, law enforcement sites, and in states across the US and in other countries. This already makes it suspect because if this was a credible claim, one would have to believe there is an epidemic of children identifying as cats, and schools around the world are scrambling to install litter boxes. However, some news outlets and websites reported on the allegations in their areas, so it's worth continuing on with the next step. Some online research revealed that while there were many sources for this story, none of them were credible. Reports were always from an unidentified parent or someone who knows someone who never gives their name. Sometimes the school is named, other times it is not. School officials are identified only when they step up to deny the claim. The newspapers in every location that chose to report on the story were all low-level publications known for publishing sensationalistic content. None of the known, credible news outlets reported on this story. In contrast, several credible news outlets like Reuters did a thorough investigation, and none of them found anything to support this story. There is simply no evidence that this happened or is happening in any school anywhere. When researching the story about a school in Pennsylvania, one commenter claimed her child had a photo of it on her Snapchat, but refused to post the photo because it involved a minor. That's a laudable response, but if that photo existed, why wasn't it presented to school authorities in person? The same school even checked their surveillance cameras. They interviewed students who had posted the story online, and all denied the story was true. You'd also think that if this were a growing issue, schools would be consulting with therapists or other experts to comment on it or testify about what parents should know and if there's any risk to their child. Common sense tells you that the story doesn't make sense. The fact that it's an outrageous claim is a red flag that the story is meant to provoke an emotional response. It's posted on social media with no evidence to back it up, and usually is part of a larger discussion on an already sensitive issue. Additionally, no matter where in the US or in what country the story appears, the basic facts are nearly identical. Why is it not a koala or a kangaroo in Australia? Why is it never a rabbit in Arizona or a bird in Florida? Another compelling argument for why this story is false is the simple fact that any school that put a litter box in the bathroom or classroom for students to use openly as a toilet is a health code violation. It's also a violation of privacy and potentially falls under sexual abuse depending on the child's exposure. If this were truly happening, school officials would be in deep, deep trouble. The next story highlights the influence of emotional language and the value of seeking out original sources.